What does the democratization of publishing, the ability for anyone, anywhere, to put their words in print or on audio, mean for readers and authors? And how did a man at the forefront of this revolution honor his father by putting his own words into the world to change perceptions and disrupt the way we look at a national pastime? We're going to find out today on Disruptor.
From the edges of publishing, it's Disruptor, celebrating the rebels, mavericks, and weirdos of the publishing industry and encouraging each of you to disrupt in your own way. Now here's your host, John Bard.
Greetings one and all, and welcome to Disruptor, Episode 3, Kelly Lyttle, Find a Way Voices. I'm John Bard. I've been in the publishing world for close to 30 years, and I've seen a lot of things change, but maybe they haven't changed fast enough. And so I asked the question, are there disruptors out there? Are there people and companies that are really changing things in publishing, pushing us into the future, throwing out the old rule book and creating a new one all their own? I went in search of that, and I found them. And every week here on Disruptor, you'll meet them. Welcome to the journey. It's time to disrupt. Today's episode of Disruptor is brought to you by Writing Blueprints, the breakthrough step-by-step system for writers that creates truly great books. To learn more about the most disruptive way ever to become a successful author, visit writingblueprints.com and use the code DISRUPT to save 10% off everything on the site. The writing world has been shaken. Meet the earthquake. Go to writingblueprints.com and use the code DISRUPT to save 10%. Writing Blueprints. This is how you write a book. Like many disruptors, Kelly Lytle's path to his destiny wasn't exactly a straight line. A graduate of Princeton, Kelly's career started conventionally enough as a capital markets analyst on Wall Street. But he soon found himself working for the National Football League's Cleveland Browns as a salary cap analyst. Afterwards, he created an online business called Giftcisions, started writing and telling stories, and ultimately ended up where he belonged, disrupting the publishing industry as a driving force behind Find a Way Voices, a company that makes the creation of audiobooks at a high and professional level available to any author. I talked to Kelly about audio, what it means for authors and listeners, the democratization of publishing, and his book, To Dad from Kelly, a memoir about his relationship with his late father, College Football Hall of Fame running back and former Denver Bronco Rob Lyttle. The book covers a range of topics, including leadership, team building, grief recovery, and the ongoing concussion crisis in football. I spoke with Kelly from the offices of Find a Way Voices. Well, I'm very happy to have Kelly Lyttle with us. Kelly, welcome to Disruptor.
Hey, thanks. It's so good to be here. Appreciate it.
So let's begin with the question I always start with, which is Disruptor exists to celebrate the rebels, the mavericks, and the weirdos of the publishing world. Which one of those are you and why?
My mom would say weirdo. Okay. I think my fiance would agree with me, and I will ask her this tonight. I'm going to go with maverick. The notion of maverick to me conveys an independent-minded person, somebody who is, I think at their heart, unafraid to go against the grain, unafraid to stand by and stand up for their convictions, and unafraid to truly believe in their notions of right and wrong and their center that way. And so all of that is very important to me. And so I would go maverick.
Great. Let's talk about Find a Way, and particularly in the context of where I think is really being disruptive. Empowering individuals to perform as authors and publishers of content on a level that maybe 10 or 15 years ago could only exist at the highest corporate levels. Talk about this trend of democratization that we're seeing right now in the publishing world.
I think it's the most important trend that is ongoing today. We're living in a time where the barriers between content creator, content owner, and end consumer, purchaser, fan, reader have largely gone away. And you're now able as a content creator to connect with your audience, your fans, those purchasing your content in a way unlike ever before. And if you go back in time with publishing and you almost think about the supply chain of publishing 100 years ago, 75 years ago, there was the content creator, there was an agent, there was a publisher, there was a wholesaler, there was a physical store, and then there was a consumer. And then the money flows back the other way. And so the content creator, you're often the last to get paid. There's different pieces being taken from that pie as you go through. And then I think the digital revolution in the mid 2000s was a huge step forward where Amazon with Kindle, Barnes & Noble Nook, iBooks, et cetera, broke down many of those barriers and brought content creators, specifically authors in this case, even closer to their audience because of digital technology and then digital content. And then now we're at a point where the creator and the end reader and purchaser, they're able to connect largely with the individual serving as their own store, serving as their own sort of system of record, if you will, depending, how deep we want to go. And that opens up a whole new world of possibilities because now there is nothing standing in between you as the creator and your fan base as you build it and as you connect with them. And because of technology, because of the ease and convenience of content consumption, especially audio, digital audio, you are able to tap into your fan base and connect with them more seamlessly than ever before. And that has a huge amount of impact in everything that goes on with publishing, regardless of the format, because it means you have even more control than you've ever had before. You have even more connection to your fan base and your audience than ever before. And you get to own and maintain even more of the royalties or of the revenue that is generated by your content. And all of that serves to empower you as a content creator to do what is so germane to us who love producing new content, and that is actually producing that content. And we're just scratching the surface of how content owners will be taking advantage of the technology, whether it's e-commerce platforms, whether it's Bitcoin and other technologies that lets them form those more direct connections. And I think we should be extremely excited and intrigued about where that goes.
Now, a lot of people are excited and intrigued. A lot of people, though, what you just described sounds very frightening. For somebody who, especially somebody who grew up in a time when there was more of a monoculture,
right?
And where an author, where sort of the vision we have of an author is somebody who sits at home, writes, sends it off to some other people, magical elves who do all these other things, and then they show up at book signing. How do you get them excited about the new opportunities?
Yeah, I think, I agree 100% with that too. And I think still, if your dream and your hope is still to have that big publishing moment or, to have that experience, then by all means, you should pursue it. I think the beauty of today is that regardless of the flavor of ice cream that you want to get, it's not just strawberry, chocolate, and vanilla anymore. There's a whole range of them open to you, which means that you are empowered to make the choice that will work best for your vision of who you want to reach as a content creator and where you need to go and reach them. And so if the prospect of building that audience, or if that seems too large, or if you're concerned about getting siloed because your content falls into a very particular subject matter, well, okay, then that what you then have is you still have an opportunity to reach a very devout, very devoted set of followers and fans through those paths and connect and communicate with them directly, which regardless of the day and age of content, like that is a beautiful thing. And that is something that should be leveraged. And then if you are striving to get into a broader distribution or a broader reach that is perhaps more global, then having that audience there already is only going to help you grow and help you reach even more, especially as you expand and sort of understand how to bring your content from this very particular subject matter into something that has more of a global reach or interest globally. And so I think the beauty of it really is that you now have options. And that's what better path is there than to know that you have a few options and you're able to experiment, you're able to try, you're able to fail, you're able to succeed, and then you're able to understand, okay, this is what's going to work best because of the goals I've set. And now a lot of that does come back to you, having the goals, having the vision, having the belief in where you want your content and your audience and your reach to go. But I will go back and say that at any moment in time, that's always been one of the most important things anyways, if you're going to be successful as an author or as a content creator. So I would say options being now presented to you, all of which you have control and then in your decision making, that is what to me is particularly important and appealing.
The other area where we see some resistance about this vista that you're describing is the lack of gatekeeper. In the past, having an editor or an agent say yes to something provided a level of confidence to an author saying, okay, somebody else put a stamp of approval on this. Now what we're saying to authors is it's the consumer who's going to put the stamp of approval on you.
Yep.
That is a scarier kind of thing, isn't it?
A little bit. Yeah, it is. And there's so much content out there. And as a content creator, you have to be cognizant of, will you get lost at sea? And will how do you drive discovery? How do you make your books or your content stand out? As a consumer, then of course you're worried, you don't have those curators or those editors there perhaps as much, but I still think there's immense opportunities for whether they're individuals or whether they're very smart, very dedicated companies to carve out the right niches, the right approach to not a gatekeeper per se, but as a trusted voice in particular subject matters. I think, for instance, let's take Goodreads, inside books. Goodreads is an amazing resource to understand and see what your friends or what others are reading, what book clubs around the world are reading, and to find new books and to discover new books. Beauty, though, is what we want to do, especially in audio on the then consumption side, is open up more paths for the listener to then go find those books. And so, or audiobooks in this case. And so you're not just limited to one or two options, but you're able to go either direct to the author and their website and make a purchase or directly, whatever that may be, or you're able to go, through a traditional storefront online and do that. And so you've taken that trusted voice, which is the Goodreads and your friends and what their recommendations are, and then you've applied it and you've just had more options and more control on the purchasing and consumption side, which I think is important, and you're able to have that. So, and I think we'll continue to see that whether it's via social media platforms or continued dedicated companies online that have very specific voices, because the benefit of both aiding content discovery and providing an editorial or curatorial voice for content, I think will continue to get specialized and become and it will grow in importance as more content is able to get out there. So I don't think we're limited by it. I think it'll just evolve into a little different form, and it may become, it may be one of the things where it's very fragmented, but then there's, somebody sort of sitting above all of it that is able to sort of manage all the different silos, if you will.
Let's talk about your world. Let's talk about audio. As we think about the explosion in e-publishing, we tended to focus on e-books, but really while we weren't looking, audio has become its own incredibly fast-growing segment. Why has audio taken off?
I think first and foremost, it's the ease of access that mobile phones and smartphone technology bring to us with audio, where we are now carrying almost every one of us is now carrying the best audio player ever invented. Mm-hmm. And then I think second to that, though, order is sort of irrelevant. But audio is just such a fantastic way to consume content. And it brings us back everyone will sort of harken back to the days of sitting around a campfire and hearing a story from your wacky uncle as the fire crackles and the marshmallows roast and the s'mores get smeared everywhere, and it has this nostalgic feel to it. And I think that's great, but at the end of the day, we're we are beings who love to communicate, and we do love to talk. And so consuming content via audio has always been a wonderful method. And now with technology, the proliferation of smartphones, and the ease of which we can consume audio content on our phones and on the go in our mobile lifestyles, means that technology has made audio, again, the best way to consume content. The tailwinds for audio are incredible. Audio isn't going anywhere anytime soon. In fact, it's only going to continue to grow because we're active, we're mobile. It's the best way to consume content when you have that type of lifestyle, and we have the ease of access provided by our cell phones. And now we've smart homes and others, that listening to audio is just the easiest and best way to consume content, and that's not changing anytime soon.
Let's talk for people who are really just thinking about audio right now, especially content creators, but maybe they don't know much about it. They know that, well, I know Audible exists and I know some things exist, but I don't really know much about the layout of it. For an author who wants to share their work in an audio format, what are the opportunities for them? Where do the books, where do these audiobooks get sold? What are some ways that people are out there promoting? Just give me some ideas of how modern authors are succeeding with audio.
Traditionally, audio, and by traditionally, let's say the last 5 to 7 years, 10 years or so, audio has largely existed inside the domain of Audible. And they continue to be the largest seller of audiobooks and where the most consumers are, and continue to be that dominant player. We continue, though, to also see that market sort of shifting and expanding as both audio grows and new opportunities through new content sellers exist for authors, for publishers, for creators to sell their audiobooks. So Find a Way voices, we believe very strongly in wide distribution. And so there's a number of opportunities to sell your books around the world. We partner with nearly 30 companies in retail, library, and K through 12. And so we find it incredibly important to give your consumers the best list of options available for where they can go, and they can then make the choice for where they want to listen. Some big names: Audible, of course, Apple, iBooks, Scribd, Barnes & Noble, Nook, audiobooks.com, Google, and Kobo, both in the last year have started selling audiobooks, and those are huge booksellers. And so, again, just fostering more competition and more opportunities for you as a consumer to choose which retailer you want to go purchase and then ultimately listen from. So that's incredibly important. In terms of then getting the word out and marketing and trying to create some discovery around your book, a few things that immediately come to mind. One being, make sure to leverage and think about libraries. I think libraries are incredibly important. Audiobooks still, they're more expensive than ebooks. And so there's a huge library market for audio, and it's important, as you think of as an author, if you're thinking of marketing, not to neglect local libraries and to target some of your Amazon marketing or your Facebook marketing direct and speak directly to reminding your listeners that, hey, go check at the library to see if these books are available, because that is a great resource for you. There's free codes, whether it be through ACX or Audible, audiobooks.com, and some of our other partners where you'll actually have free coupon codes. Those are also great to use in your marketing and your newsletter campaign building. And then the last point, if you're marketing an audiobook, make sure to form a great relationship with your narrator, because they come with such rabid and important and excited fan bases themselves. Making sure that you work with them and encourage them to market, the narrator to market your story to their fans as well, is something that's important, because that's a whole nother universe of potential fans that you can tap into. And if they like the story, they already love the narrator, that means they'll stay for, if there's more books in the series or more books coming, that sort of thing.
That's actually a fascinating point, and something I didn't even know, that narrators have their own fan bases. So if somebody comes to Find a Way and they work with you and you hook them up with a great narrator, it's almost like you're writing a song for a pop singer, right? They have their fans, and the fans want to hear the new song. It
is, and it's immensely impactful. I cannot speak to the quality of voice performers. When we talked about audio's growth, and commensurate with that growth is the amazing talent on the performer side. What narrators are able to do, inflect their voice, convey depth and range of emotion, bring a story to life in audio absolutely astonishes me. And it's so fascinating to see, or so enjoyable and fascinating to see. And as audio has grown, the quality of narration continues to go up too, because of the way everyone is raising the bar to, you have to stay up with the next great production or the next great talent, and that bar continues to go up, which is something that's exciting.
Let me ask about your own experience, because you are not just somebody who works with audiobooks. You're also an author, and you've written specifically about your father, who was a football player, still well remembered here in Colorado, I might add.
Oh,
he's a former running back
yes.
for the Denver Broncos.
Oh, yes.
Who passed away a few years ago, and you wrote a book talking, and really your a primary interest is getting the word out about CTE and the impact of concussions and so on. So you're trying to disrupt in your own way, and part of a broader movement in that. Talk about that. Talk about how individual authors can disrupt, can change minds through their work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. It was so the book is To Dad from Kelly. It's a memoir of my relationship with my late father, Rob Lyttle, who played 7 years for the Denver Broncos, passed away in 2010. And it's a collection of short stories of lessons I learned from him and questions left unasked and unanswered when he passed away at 56 from a sudden heart attack. I think when I set out to write that book, I had no grander vision. And I woke up at 3 a.m. one morning and I had this story burning inside of me. It actually was a letter I wrote to my dad, and it was about 2 years after he had died. And I just poured out tears and emotion and spilled coffee all over a yellow legal pad. And I just wrote this story to him. And I had no plans to go anywhere with it. I had no plans to turn it into anything. What ended up happening is I realized how impactful the stories were for me, how cathartic they were, how meaningful, everything like that. Then from there, I said, okay, well, if I can write something that even one person finds meaning in, whether they've lost a parent or they've lost anyone in their life close to them, maybe they've had a father that played professional football and suffered the ramifications of such a violent game. But if I can reach one person, if I can do this on a very micro level, that one bit in and of itself would make all of the tears and the long nights, late mornings, all of that worth it and make it meaningful for me. So I looked at it from a very micro level of, I wasn't setting out to disrupt or tell necessarily the CTE story inside football and to try to shed light on it. But as I put these individual stories together and each one connected with a different set of fans or a different folks I had never met or never dreamed of meeting, you start to then step back and understand the broader significance of it.
You do bring out a point about disruption, though, which is that not every act of disruption must be a massive one taken on one's own. You've added to the body of work that exists, that is disrupting the way people think. Mm-hmm. So I think that's also this, going back to where we began the day with empowerment, the empowerment of people, not just to make bold, big statements, but to be part of a community of people who are working towards something, and having tools like Create Space or Smashwords, or having tools like Find a Way, and having tools where you can put your stuff out there in a real professional way and be part of the discussion is incredibly exciting.
I agree 100%. It is, everything again, it comes back to your values, your beliefs, what you're passionate for. And if you're able to play a small role in creating, an element of disruption, it may seem small to you, but it's not in the grander scheme or the grander context of everything that's going on around it. And so, it's cliche, but every little bit does matter when you're trying to change a norm or change sort of perception that is widely accepted.
Who's your favorite disruptor? It could be someone in history, it could be someone currently, but just who do you really admire who's really changed things?
So the name I'm going to use is Rune Arledge from ABC. Rune is the creator, ideator, the genius behind Wide World of Sports and Monday Night Football, and eventually Primetime, and I think ABC World News Tonight. And he's known for basically creating Monday Night Football and reimagining how a viewer would connect with the sport of football through television. And he did so with a basic 2-page memo that he was 26 or 27 when he sent it to the brass at ABC, and totally transformed how the world consumes sports.
I think it's an inspiring choice because it speaks directly to the people who are listening. We have creatives who are listening, business people. What Roone Arledge did was simply look at something, the way sports was presented, and say, why does it have to be this way? Why can't it be this way?
Exactly.
Which is the simplest but most profound way to disrupt anything, isn't it?
Yeah. And I remember, it's funny, it is. It's that question of why. And you always have to be asking yourself why, in anything that you're doing, why is it done this way? Why can't we have slow motion replay? Who says we can't? But any moment in your life, you should be asking yourself that question, and you should invest in your own well-being enough to take a step back each day or each week and reflect and ask that critical question. Because I think, as you just brought up, asking yourself why is the most important question really you can ask each day, because that will then help shape where you make changes or think critically about what you want to do each day. And so, can't get more important than that.
Great, absolutely. If folks out there are interested in having an audiobook, what do you have for them? Is there a beginner's guide? Is there some great way for people to learn more about creating an audiobook that you could offer them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the easiest thing to do is, you can go to our site. We have a lot of information there about getting started at www.findawayvoices.com. And that's a great place to start. We also have a team that is incredibly dedicated to helping walk authors through the entire experience and the entire process. So if you do have any questions, you can just send us an email and we'll be in touch, within a day. With more info. And then, our service and our experience is set up in a way that we're really trying to help guide you through the process. And so you're not on your own to make your narrator selection. We actually cast a set of recommended narrators for you, such that you have individuals who we trust, we know they can do a great job on your audiobook, and we think they'd be a great voice match for it. And then we have an entire infrastructure that lets you work very closely with them throughout in order to then create the book, and of course use us if you have any questions in between. So,
final question. For those out there who are looking to disrupt in their own way, what's your advice?
Understand what your beliefs are and hold true to those convictions, and then work as hard as you possibly can to set goals that align with them, and to not let yourself be distracted or dissuaded by popular opinion, by public opinion, and even necessarily the voices of those around you. Because if it is you who are doing the work, and you who believe in your passion and your vision to create disruption in whatever industry it is, there's going to be naysayers. It's going to be harder than you ever imagined. You'll have this brilliant idea and this bright light shining all the time for you, and you'll knock your head, you'll bang your head against the wall wondering why no one else can see it, and why it's so hard to convey it, sell it, all of those things. And so you have to remain true to who you are, what your vision is, and what your belief in disruption is. And you have to do that in the face of what will be criticism and what will be individuals who are questioning you or doubting you. I think having the confidence in yourself and the confidence in your beliefs is what underpins the entire thing.
Well said. Kelly Lyttle, thanks for joining us on Disruptor.
Thank you. This was wonderful. I'm so glad we could connect.
Today's episode of Disruptor was brought to you by Writing Blueprints, the breakthrough step-by-step system for writers that creates truly great books. To learn more about the most disruptive way ever to become a successful author, visit writingblueprints.com and use the code DISRUPT to save 10% off everything on the site. The writing world has been shaken. Meet the earthquake. Go to writingblueprints.com and use the code DISRUPT to save 10%. Writing Blueprints. This is how you write a book.
For show notes and videos, go to disruptcast.online. And to start a disruption of your own, visit writingblueprints.com to discover the most innovative and coolest way ever to write a great book. We'll be back next week. Until then, go forth and disrupt.